chainers, wherever you are in the world. This is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey with you today. Are you ready? Let's talk supply chain.
Welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, depending on where we're joining in from. Drop in the comments where you are located at the moment. My name is Audrey Ross. I'm going to be your host today while Sarah is off jet setting around the world. I think she's staying at least on this continent this week and headed down to, I think, into Texas. So let's hear where you are from. Just drop that in the comments. To start the show, I'll mention, are you ready to find your community? If you're struggling to find a supply chain community of like-minded professionals where you can level up, network, learn about best practices from experts in supply chain, professional development, and marketing, look no further. We created the Secret Society of Supply Chain to provide a safe space, a community for everyone in supply chain. We offer unique opportunities for everyone to connect and grow in our 3 distinct value-packed communities: the supply chainers, women in supply chain, and the creative room. From the learn at your own pace, content-rich approach of the supply chainers to the empowering community-focused space of women in supply chain and the marketing mastermind of the creative room, we mean it when we say there's truly a place for everyone. So head over to secretsocietyofsupplychain.com to explore which community was made for you. All right, we've got a couple of shows coming up. So I want to mention that the episode 406, it was CargoWise, Unlock the Opportunities of Cross-Border E-Commerce. That episode is now live, so you want to check that out. I like the podcast episodes because you get to learn about all of these different companies and to really hear from them on what they're working on, what they're thinking about, and what they're concerned about in the space. The other thing we have happening is this week, you've got Supply Chain Unfiltered with Christine Barnhart. So that'll be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern, same time. And then on Friday, we've got Eric Johnson coming in with LogTech Live. Some of you know Eric from the sort of Journal of Commerce community. So he's a very insightful, curious person who really brings us some great stories and really, really interesting guests. So I usually turn into that one. And if you can't tune in because you have a busy schedule, all of these shows can be caught up on replay. So you can head to either LinkedIn for the post show, or you can head over to YouTube and some of the other Let's Talk Supply Chain channels. So I guess I should tell you a bit about me. I kind of always forget to do that. So I'm here in Toronto. I'm in import and export compliance, customs, and logistics and shipping. So that's what keeps me busy. Sarah and I work on the Blended Pledge together. You may have heard about the Blended Pledge. We offer micro grants to aspiring speakers and conference attendees. Hi, Rob. He's tuning in from Tennessee. Hopefully the weather's a little bit better there than it is here. So we're offering grants. So we do have the applications are open for that. So if you are looking ahead to maybe a conference in June, or maybe you're looking at things that are coming up September, October, November, now's the time to put your application in. We can offer to cover some of your travel or accommodation expenses so that we can get diverse voices on stage. So that's a passion project for Sarah and I and for the rest of our board members. This week we're really excited. We have a special guest with us. So not just hearing from me today. We have Shimon Gada, who's going to come up on stage. There you are. Hi. So let's have you tell us a bit about, who you are, what you're up to, and what's keeping you interested.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a pleasure to be on this show. I mean, I've been such a big fan of Thoughts and Coffee, and it's been like my weekly, chunk of all of the information that we need. And with Sarah not being here, it feels like a huge shoes to fill in, but I'm so looking forward to having this conversation. Yes,
Awesome.
so a little bit about myself. I think I would describe myself as someone who's in their mid-career. So I'm currently working as a technical project manager, but my background has been across operations, strategic supply chain design. So when I say operations, I started off with understanding what goes on within the 4 walls of a warehouse. All of the operations, how do trucks come inside your yard? Which dock do they go into? I feel there is a beauty associated with it, because as you move across laterally across any field in supply chain, understanding what a warehouse looks like, how do you design it, and how things move, within a warehouse, it just adds so much more meaning to it. And then I've been in consulting for the longest time. So I've designed warehouses, audited them for best practices. And supply chain network design is something that I've done for the longest time, which is about, trying to understand. When someone really asks me, I always try and describe it as, if you're a layman, and you're trying to expand into, like, let's say, a new region, how do you determine the number of warehouses, where must they be located, and which customer must it serve? And that is something what we build, the modeling aspect of it. And fast forward now, I work as a technical project manager. Now, how am I leveraging all of my previous skills in this role? Well, the most important thing that I do is manage people, but the expertise that I bring to the table is the fact of, the domain knowledge and the industry expertise, because we work with a lot of cross-functional users across the board who touch our application. This could be any application within supply chain, right? And the ability to actually concise, understand what those business problems are, and also having the ability to kind of make sure that the tech team understands it and we have the LOE to get it done.
Yeah.
And that being said, this position almost feels, both powerful and very humbling. I know it's an oxymoron, but I guess that's how it is, because sometimes we
Yeah.
always see tech as, like, a box, but now having like a deep view of how it works, and also the fact that it can do all of this. So yes, that's a little bit of what I do right now.
Yeah. And it's, clearly everyone who comes on this show too, and everyone you meet in supply chain really enjoys what they do. And so that really comes across, right? We all really like this. And yeah, it's interesting too, because I think I'm sort of in a similar maybe career area or career journey as you. So yeah, I've started having a team that I'm managing, and we're just going through a training at about kind of leadership, and how it's like, you have this sort of great responsibility, but also, you're learning so much in that experience. So yeah,
That is
it's
so
true.
true.
Yeah. Well, let's dive into, we like to talk about the market update. And market update, for us, it's sort of bringing our sort of specialty backgrounds into it. So let's maybe, I'll give an update on sort of more logistics maritime area, and then we can have you jump in because you have some interesting news on AI and what's happening with that. So, but we'll start with Red Sea crisis. So I think I've mentioned a couple of times, if you're not following Lars Jensen on LinkedIn, he really has the sort of bird's eye view of really what's going on. I know a lot of us, he's kind of keeping track and monitoring the active situation that's happening on the ground, which is, not reassuring so far. And there is still a lot of danger for, the seafarers and crew that are moving these vessels through that area. I think for the rest of us, if you're sitting in Canada trying to manage supply chain like I am, or sitting in, sort of New Jersey or in Panama, you're kind of seeing the view now that we're seeing some capacity issues. So where earlier, when the situation sort of first started, we had, sort of open and available volumes. We've just come out of a holiday in China specifically. So if you're manufacturing from there, there's been a lot of vessel volumes, blank sailings. And so now we're having capacity issues, which is driving some of the prices up. So you want to be mindful about that. We had to do an internal update to our team. And otherwise, the Panama Canal situation does seem to be resolving a little bit. There's been some climate shifts as was hoped, to sort of increase the amount of vessels that have been going through back to what was considered the normal rate. So that's sort of moving up. And then I think we're all just preparing for a busy, if you're in North America, you're preparing for that busy peak season that starts sort of June through the fall to manage sort of those holiday milestone shopping events. So that's kind of what's happening in logistics, shipping, maritime. Shimon, why don't you tell us what's happening in your space and what's going on there?
Yeah. So, all of yesterday, Audrey, I've just been geeking around the latest OpenAI GPT-4 model.
Yeah.
I mean, I've just been spending so much time about, just watching what this new model entails. So,
Okay.
yeah, it's so exciting. I have to tell you about it. So, so basically what this new model does is, you've used ChatGPT a little bit. Everyone has just the texting, the responses, and all of the textual based responses that we get. But what this latest model can do is that it can basically reason across audio, vision, and text in real time. So this
Mm.
is like almost getting a human enabling human computer interaction. So it
Okay.
basically, accepts any combination of text, audio, and image, and generates another combination of text, audio, and image outputs. And the response to any audio input is as little as 230 milliseconds is what they say. uh, and usually the response time in like a human conversation is, I think 300 milliseconds. But yeah, and some of the examples that I saw were, for instance, I'm prepping for an interview, right? And I want a feedback, or let's say a date or something, and I
Yeah.
want to get a feedback of how I'm looking or how my hair is looking and things like that.
Yeah.
Usually you would end up calling like a good friend and just like
Yeah.
FaceTime, right? But ChatGPT can do that for you, in the sense
Whoa.
that, yeah, it can give you like real time feedback about how you're looking, and in a very nice way, right? So
Okay.
this one example, like this person is trying to wear a hat, and the response that ChatGPT is giving, that hey, this is probably, you'd stand out too much, and just giving you like live feedback. Yeah, it was kind of funny, but yes, I've been watching like a hell lot of videos around this about how this model can add value, and several examples, right? Like, there are these two people just playing rock paper scissors, and ChatGPT is able to be the judge. So yeah,
Oh.
it's
It's
almost
amazing how like it's everything. It's
exactly.
just it's everything. It's part of the whole every interaction we're going to have in our worlds. It's interesting.
Yeah. I know, right? And that couldn't like, when that being said, I couldn't like stop thinking about how directly this can be applied to supply chain. Again, like
Mhm.
I've been seeing, a lot of companies working on using AI. I think chatbots is one of the most commonly used, use of AI. But in addition to that, I think translation, and I want to kind of hear your point of view, right? How often do we see the need for, real-time translations within global operations?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you're able to, immediately converse. So, you just give the instructions to the model saying that, hey, this person with me can only speak Spanish, but I can only speak English. So anything that I say, just translate it for me in real time. And it just does all of the job.
That's huge.
That
That's
is.
huge because yeah, I mean, I think too, I mean, I'm an English speaker. Um, so that's my first, my first language. And I mean, I have a little bit of French and I've been working on it, but I think there's a lot of people, English is sort of considered kind of the common language, or we use it a lot in business. But then, your thought process is in your first language or your home language maybe. And so to be able to convert, I always feel sort of bad at this as an English speaker, because you're like, well, I'm sort of at the expectation is that of course I just speak English and I don't, I can't speak another language and everybody else has learned English.
Yeah.
But this means that, you can communicate where people feel the most confident in what they're speaking. It's not to say that we can't, continue to learn different languages and explore different cultures, but it's like in the moment when you're busy and you're trying to get something done, and you're like, I just want to, have this communication in where I feel the most confident and have everyone understand me. I mean, that's big. That's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. I'm so excited towards this. But
Yeah.
that also got me thinking, right? This kind of eliminates the need to have human interaction sometimes. There are
Yeah,
goods
that's
and bads, but I'm like,
yeah, if it can tell me how I look, then like really do I need anybody else?
yeah, exactly, right? Because that was, I
Does this
think,
hat
something
make
that
my face look funny or do I look
I
okay,
know,
bye
right?
best
I
friend.
totally
I don't
get
need a best friend anymore. I have chat GPT.
I know, right? Yeah, that's hilarious. But I think
Yeah.
one other aspect, I mean, one other updates is what I've been reading, and that can really add value towards the future in terms of drug discovery is Google DeepMind's released one of their latest model called the AlphaFold 3, which really expedites the drug discovery by almost 10 years. Because
Whoa.
yeah, it has this open source of model where all the researchers can access a huge list of molecules, and they
Yeah,
can simulate it, and they're able to understand what the outcome is. But the only thing that this wouldn't do is the clinical trials, which will still have to be on the human front. But
of
I
course.
think
Yeah.
it's a yeah, I think it's a huge revolution. And in terms of, I think, diseases, crop diseases, or crop discovery and
Yeah.
health.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anything in agriculture and farm and stock management too, right? All these, we have all these farms with livestock and it's managing, yeah, what is happening in diseases there because that's food source, that's, our own health. Like that, I mean, that's huge. These are huge things. These are huge leaps and bounds. This is amazing.
Yeah. So much happening, so much to keep up with, but very exciting times.
Yeah. And then it's yeah, how do I draw that back into my own supply chain? Into my own warehouse? How do I make the boxes move better and more efficiently and optimized? And
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's just
Let's jump. Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
just saying I'm wrapping up with the market insights.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much. That's the thing. There's
I know.
always something. Yeah, we love our jobs too. So. Let's look at Let's Talk Supply Chain does a weekly poll. So every Wednesday, they do poll of the week. So they ask us this week. They're asking us, what do you prioritize when networking, giving or receiving? So when you are networking, what is sort of, obviously, there's sort of balance of both, but at the forefront of your mind sometimes, is it offering assistance and support, or is it seeking prospects for yourself, or is it something different? What do you think about this one?
Yeah, I think this was such a great question, right? Because I feel I've been going to conferences maybe a little bit more recently than ever. And
Yeah.
I think each is a little different from the other. And
Mm.
for me, when I go, I think probably I come in that third category where I'm basically going there. I'm a very curious person. And I feel
Hmm.
these are such great opportunities to learn everything so much more faster. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, I was at Coupa Inspire. So I basically went there because, supply chain design, and I work pretty hands-on in supply chain design. And there is this, side of procurement, which I know what procurement is, but I haven't really worked hands-on. But I just
Mm.
happened to sit next to a person in this workshop who was, there in that workshop by chance, but I was there intentionally. But a 30-minute conversation with him gave me so much more knowledge about how this entire world is. Just to just to go one step deeper, it's this auto industry and how they have several different smaller partners who wouldn't even think about, workshops and, smaller car repair centers. They wouldn't even think about digitalizing their data, but it's about,
Wow.
yeah, and it's about him trying to get all of their suppliers, on board, and how this data is transmitted, and how it makes like the entire invoicing spend, uh, evaluating that data much more easier. So I think that's one
Mhm.
aspect to it. And I think supply chain itself, right, there's so much to learn, there's so much to bask in, and of course meeting new people and interacting with them. And I think, yeah, I think I bring in that perspective. What about you, Audrey? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think now when I go, especially at sort of maybe at this point in my career, sometimes I go with an eye for like there's more of a specific person I might want to meet, right? Or there's a person who, if I know they're going to be there and I've talked to them quite a bit online, it's like, well, I want to make that connection in person.
Right.
But I do think I end up being the person now, with the kind of amount of connections that we have at this stage, the experience that we've had. I do think I'm more the person who's now become the, oh, if you're working on that, do you know this person? Or you might be interested to me. So I feel like I spend a lot more time doing that now. Whereas maybe when I was a bit younger, it was more about, trying to get feedback, learn about jobs, learn about the industry. And, but I think it's true. We bring this sort of curiosity to our experiences. So then you're just trying to just meet people and hear their stories. And everyone's so fascinating in doing these different things that it's like, I do get wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find I do find sometimes conferences a little, my time gets a bit.
Yeah. All over, right?
I'm like, do I have to walk away from this conversation that I'm having a really good time at? Okay, I guess I have to have lunch at some point. So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
thanks for adding that point, because you're almost like an enabler in the industry. So you're
Mhm.
connecting people, which makes
Yeah,
sense, right? Because you're talking to so many people and you can add value if you can connect to people.
yeah, it's true. Well, let's jump into our articles. We've got three to cover today. So I think we'll start with Amazon leapfrogs UPS and four other takeaways from a top shipping index. So this is coming in from Supply Chain Dive. That's where you can find the article. So it's talking about market conditions are leading to shifts in US volumes. And so a lot of the what we consider legacy delivery providers are weathering some volume declines because Amazon and some emerging alternatives are gaining more share in this sort of very active US parcel market. And so this is looking at some of the data from, the and summaries that include Amazon surpassing UPS in terms of just US parcel volume, the regional carrier demand, and then what that could look like. What do you think about this? Is this something that you're seeing?
Yes. I mean, I think this is such a fascinating or interesting time to be here, right? Because I think from what we were seeing and from what the data says, the number of parcels that have shipped from last year to now, I think it was about 21.6 billion parcels last year.
Yeah.
There has only been a slight uptick this year, that is about 0.5%, right? It's like almost, you're just adding a very small town's, packaging into or delivery into the network. But what the interesting dip that we're seeing from what we're seeing this year is as your volumes grow, the revenue has been growing at the same proportional extent. But as of
Mm.
now, because of the competition of Amazon and some of the newer players who are able to bring more agility, there has been a slight dip that is about, I think, about 0.3%, where the revenue is not really able to match up to the volume increase,
Yeah.
which kind of makes everyone there's a lot of competition in the air. And I think with UPS and FedEx, if I have to give another analogy, it's like they're like the heavy lifters. They're very
Mhm.
traditional, they've been doing certain things certain way, but Amazon is almost like a sprint runner, right? It's very agile, it's able to pick up more things, which is faster and able to drive forward in that way. But I think this is
Mhm.
also, in terms of the rise of alternative carriers. So
Yeah.
there are, I think I also probably want to hear something from you, Audrey, like how these newer carriers are able to, kind of add to this competition,
Yeah.
because I think they are also seeing a rise in their volume by about 28%, while the revenue is also up by 32%. So the statistics is kind of, different when you look at these data sets in smaller buckets. So I
Mhm.
think this trend is going to continue because it's estimated to grow by 2029 by, I think, an annual rate of about 5%. So it's a pretty interesting time to be in, especially in tiny small packages, because everyone wants everything super fast and super quick. Yeah.
It's true. It's true that small parcel market, like, it's not slowing down, right? People still are buying these sort of individual packages. And I mean, from a sustainability and environmental perspective, that's maybe not the best of things. And we haven't figured out how to convert into like consolidations a bit better, or in streamlining some of those deliveries. But I do think, you have a bit of an advantage if you're one of the smaller kind of startups, and especially if you got, if you really got into some of the technologies, and then so you're kind of ahead of the game, and some of the more established players have to really kind of, like you say, it's so much more competitive, and so they've got to do those sort of really big transformations internally to be able to keep up. Otherwise, they're, or they have to get really content
Yeah.
with the market share that they have, the money that they're making, the customers that they have. But yeah, either there's going to have to be differentiation or innovation, something,
Yeah.
if they want to see a swap to these numbers, for
As
sure.
a USP, right? No, I totally
Yeah,
agree.
yeah. Let's look at something really interesting that's happened very local to me. So in Toronto, we have a record-breaking gold bar heist. So this is a situation that happens. It's in Brampton. This is just outside of Toronto proper, at our airport. So it's having the largest gold theft in Canada, and the sixth largest gold theft in the whole world was at an Air Canada cargo facility. So it involves the disappearance of 400 kilograms of gold bars, which is worth approximately 24 million US dollars. Plus, they also took an additional, in Canadian, about 2.1 million. So that's about, 1 million in US in various foreign currencies. So it appeared to be like a layover, but apparently, um, there was a situation that happened in a secure cargo warehouse with a truck, forged documents, duplicate airway bill, and so then this investigation is involved. Of course, they have a fun name for it. They called it Project 24K, or 24 Carat, for our police force and the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco,
Mhm.
Firearms, and Explosives. So I guess they were working together. What do you think? Big gold heist.
Wow. I mean, this almost feels like probably there will be a Netflix movie on this
Right?
eventually. I wouldn't be surprised because I mean, honestly, I feel and this is, and I know this is the sixth time that this has happened, or the sixth largest heist. right?
Yeah.
But I think one of the other ones, as I was reading, there was this bank robbery called as I mean, a similar robbery of gold called the Brinkmats robbery in 1983 in Heathrow Airport. So this was, and a movie was made out of it. But the most surprising part of, these kind of thefts that happen is you've got to know how the process flows.
Mm.
Yeah, there is that aspect of there is a little bit of someone involved on the inside, as to you've got to know every single thing, has to what kind of documents gets passed through, where are you stopping, and who hands over what to whom. But
Mm.
it almost feels like, and I think that previously what they've done is they just melt the gold and they smelt the gold, so it kind of becomes hard to track it and catch it. But I wonder how this is going to end. and
Hmm.
And that being said, I think and how probably this can be mitigated, and I've been trying to think, right? Um, I think having proper security and doing a little bit more scrutiny in which is the company that you hire is very, very important, right?
Yes.
A due
Yeah.
diligence, or probably repercussions of when you're not able to keep up with something like this that happens, because we know like gold is something that, for instance, if you want to try buying gold at Costco, it's out of stock. It just
Yeah.
runs out of it. And there's been like a whole new article about how gold is such a big investment and you want to kind of hold on to it. But that also being said, I think in getting blockchain into all of your paper trails, right,
Mm.
really, really adds value in terms of preventing the perspective of duplicating it. And I
Yeah.
think I think this is one of the greatest use case, right? Like contract negotiation, yeah, paper trails movement. And I feel all of these is more like a testimony to actually be able to add these technologies, because I mean the worth of these gold is in billions,
Yeah.
and it's not a small amount.
Yeah.
It's your GPS tracking. I think some of these are some of the technologies that we really, really need in place to be able to actually prevent something like this happening in the future.
I think it's absolutely everyone's going to use this as a case study, right? Like everyone's going to take this, scrutinize it. It looks like they use, I find it fascinating taking just doing another airway bill. They just replicated an airway bill off of the inside printer. It was from a shipment from the day before. Like, and to your point, blockchain would help, or blockchain, some sort of security to the documents, the data management, the ability to create these documents. Like, that is where everybody's going to be trying to scrutinize and see how can we prevent this, for every shipment, but of course the high value.
Yeah. Yeah, I really hope like this, incidents like this, I mean, it shouldn't have happened, but incidents like this is something that should motivate the industry to move in that direction and just be a
Yeah.
little bit more informed, right? Because
Yeah.
I feel there are parts of the industry which still wants to continue being legacy based. And that shift and change is really, really hard, but it
Yeah.
would certainly add value, not take away your jobs, but just make it
Mhm.
more secure and make it more easier to get it done.
For sure. Let's spend we've got this show goes really fast, but let's spend our last 2 minutes. We'll just duck into the third article. So this article is called "This Startup Wants to Make Packaging That's All Bark, No Bite." So it's talking about takeout containers being the answer to environmental waste issues. So when we kind of have learned that recycling isn't the foolproof solution we thought it was, so this company is coming in to look at a more sustainably or environmentally friendly solution. What did you think here about sort of tree bark to replace rigid plastic?
Yeah, I mean, this is something that's the need of the hour, right? And there are a few other companies doing this as well in terms of using the agricultural waste and trying
Hmm.
to put it back into the ecosystem to make it, almost zero waste, in the sense that anything that arrives or anything that you consume, from your coffee cup in the morning to, your boxes that arrive, is leaving literally no traces. But I
Hmm.
think the other aspect to it is actually kind of diversifying from tree barks as well, as to, let's say that, coming from India, like
Yeah.
the rice husks or corn stover are, it's a surplus. So it does
Yeah.
result in a lot of agricultural waste. So imagine if we're able to come up, or if we have the mechanism to actually convert it into a more usable product, it's not
Hmm.
just adding the sustainability value, but it's also adding a lot of local jobs, and it's pumping up the
Hmm.
economy, right? So I
So
feel that's
true.
where it's very exciting. And I think there are a lot of companies which uses seaweed and mushrooms to kind of, make this more biodegradable, make the quality of the product itself more, sustainable. Because, uh,
Hmm.
for instance, in India, there is complete ban of plastics. So even if
Yeah.
you, yeah, so even if you go to like a street vendor selling fruits or whatever, they would insist on you carrying your own bag, or they would give you a paper bag. But
Yeah.
that being said, like these paper straws that we have, it's just not, it is, I understand the intent, but the customer experience is not the greatest, because it gets soggy at the end of it, and then you want to use another paper straw, to kind of go through your drink. So I think innovation in this space and the ability to actually keep driving forward or research is something that's much needed. And even technology as well, right? Like I think Amazon has its own AI optimizer to kind of understand, hey, this is the amount of packaging or material that we need for this kind of box, which will
Hmm.
kind of prevent wastage and just make our entire supply chain more circular.
Hmm. So there's so many avenues too, like you said. Like there's like one, using the materials that we already have as agricultural wastage, and shifting that model. Two, being mindful of how the customer experience and how many times they need to use something, because if it's not multiple use, or if it's sort of failing in the moment, then that's not really sustainable either. And then three, it's, yeah, how can the technology help us assess what our actual use is versus like just overproducing, right? Because we've got to dial back some of that as well. Well, Shimon, thank you so much for being here. I mean, you and I could just, this is such a fascinating conversation, and we had some great articles today. So for everyone who's tuning in, make sure you check out those articles. There's some really interesting insights. Follow Shimon on LinkedIn for sure, and keep up with her commentary and expertise, in this technology area, especially AI. Now I've got to go and look at check out this new updated version. So thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you so much, Audrey. I mean, it's like you and Sarah trade besties. So, I mean, it's such a pleasure to be on here. Yeah. So, I
Ah,
mean, looking forward to seeing you in person soon.
for
But
sure.
yeah, it was a great conversation. I didn't realize how the 30 minutes just flew